I connected with Angela several months ago, and she's been keeping me appraised of what's been happening in Portland with this tragic heroin epidemic, which I know is not just unique to Portland, but it has been horrible. I live in Ottawa these days, but I grew up in Connecticut, where we have had a similarly very bad time with heroin and other drugs. And it's worth noting, I'm actually from Maine, even though this is my first week speaking here. I was born in Damariscotta, so it's nice to be back here. I got to go up to Bristol yesterday. I had one day off and visit family there in Waldoboro and Damariscotta. I went to Pemaquid. It was awesome. And Joe, I don't know where Joe went, but that was great. What a nice guy. It was a real pleasure to meet him. And it was interesting as he's talking, our lives went different ways, but just so many similarities. And I find that when I talk with fellow addicts, that none of us are really terminally unique. We have our own stories, but the pain and the heartbreak is universal, and it's awful. But there's also hope, and there is also a lot of beauty, and I think I'm in a room full of that today. So it's a real honor and pleasure to be here. That's a tough act to follow. He was great. And handsome man, handsome. Don't tell my wife I said that, but he's a good-looking guy. All right, fair enough. So, yeah, I'm going to, kind of similar to Joe, tell you guys a little bit about myself. I'm going to lead you in a quick, 5-minute meditation, just to anchor us all in, because it's a yoga and mindfulness conference, so I figure we'll bring a little mindfulness into it. After that, though, I'll start telling you a little bit about myself. And I have another quick, 5-7 minute loving kindness practice I thought would be a nice way to end this portion of the day. As I speak, I get bored easily of hearing myself talk. So I encourage, if at any time you have a question or a comment, just throw your hands up. I love to make what I do as interactive as possible. That way it keeps it fresh for me too. This is, like Angela said, my first time speaking in Portland, but I've done 2 talks. I was over at USM on Tuesday and then Mecca on Wednesday. Yeah, and here I am today. I was feeling not bad for myself, but I'm tired. I've been sleeping in different beds every night, and I mean, I was a touring musician since high school, and I thought I was used to it, but you get older, and but then I heard the schedule Joe had, and I don't feel bad for myself at all right now. So, yeah, let's do a quick Vipassana meditation. Like I said, I'll keep it quick. We'll do 5 to 7 minutes. You guys are troopers, because I know it can be tough to sit and watch speakers back to back. So I will try to make this as worth your while as possible. But so, is there anyone here, first of all, that has not meditated before? And don't be shy. It's totally cool if you haven't. Thank you for the brave hands. Awesome. So I'll give you guys, as we do this, just some very basic instructions to help walk you through it. And again, I'll make it short, so we're not going to do a... I'm laughing, I'm sorry, because I had my second book came out last week, and I had a book signing down in Connecticut. And the first thing I said, I sat down, and I was like, all right, now we're just going to start with an easy 45 minutes of meditation. And the look of horror on some of these people's faces... I would not do that to them. If we were doing a workshop, that's another story. But seriously, the look on their faces. But anyways, so that said, we will do a quick 5-7 minute just to anchor in together, and then we will come back out of it. And I'm also laughing because I'm drinking coffee right before leading you in a meditation, which those who meditate know is not always the best mix, but I got to get through this somehow. Coffee it is. Better than the alternatives, better than what I used to do, that's for sure. That would have been a whole nother talk. Oh, man. Okay. So, is that a little too loud? I'll try to, it's hard for me to hear out there. Is that okay? Okay. So when we meditate, I encourage people to find the position that suits them. As with pretty much anything I encourage people to do, find what suits you. There's a couple of general rules that I think are universally applicable, one of which is, as you sit, we're fine sitting in our chairs. We don't have to get down on the floor and do full or half lotus. You can keep your feet flat on the floor. You want to keep your spine erect, but not overly rigid. You don't want to feel strenuous, so you just kind of have it straight. Relax your shoulders. You can do whatever you want with your hands. I tend to put them in this mudra position. Some people do the little, I don't know, I've never done this, but there's a thing with your fingers you can do. Just put your hands on your lap, up or down. Just place your hands wherever they feel comfortable to you. And this is not necessary, but I encourage people to close your eyes for meditation. Some schools teach to do it with your eyes about a third of the way open, and I do that sometimes too. That's cool, but for today's purposes, especially with a large group, I find closing our eyes helps to take away some of the external distractions, and it'll help us maybe possibly anchor into these few minutes of meditation a little more easily. So we'll begin by taking 3 long, intentional deep breaths in through our nose and out through our mouth. Next, bring your awareness to the top of your head. And what we're going to do from here is we're going to slowly scan down our entire body, seeing if there are any areas of stress or tension that we're holding on to. And we're going to do our best to release them. So from the top of your head, just slowly bring your awareness down into your eyes and your cheekbones, continuing to bring it down to your mouth and jaw area, and just put some attention there and see if there's any tightening or tension in your face. We often hold a lot of tension in this area that we're not aware of. So if you become aware of any tightening or tension, just do your best to relax your muscles and let it go. Then we'll move down through our throat area into our shoulders, which, as we all know, is where most of us hold the majority of our tension and stress. See if that's happening for you right now, and if it is, just do your best to let go. Let your shoulders fall to the wayside while still being mindful of keeping your back and spine as straight as possible without being overly rigid. And then you'll just scan down through your chest, into your midsection and abdomen, as well as paying attention to your back in those areas, the mid-back, lower back. See if you're holding any tension in that area. And if so, just release it. The belly is one where we'll often do it as well. Then we continue scanning the body down through the reproductive area, into our upper legs, our thighs, our knees, then down through our shins and calves, our heels, our feet, then into our toes. And again, if you become aware of any tension or tightening, just let it go. And now we'll begin the actual portion of meditation. And this is what's called a Vipassana meditation, or breath awareness, or insight meditation. And essentially what we're going to do just for the next couple of minutes is follow our breath. The breath is a wonderful anchor for bringing us here and now, because it is always happening here and now. And that's why it's a pretty universally taught form of meditation. The 2 places that are usually taught to put your awareness as you're breathing are either one, in your belly, and this helps us anchor into the sensation of breathing. So as you breathe in, become aware of the sensation of your stomach expanding. And as you breathe out, you become aware of the sensation of your stomach contracting. The alternative to this is you can place your awareness on the tip of your nostril, or nostrils. And as you breathe in, be aware of the sensation of the breath going in through your nose. Don't follow it in, just be aware of the breath as it's going in and how that feels on the tip of your nose, as well as how it feels on your exhale. Some people, as they do this practice, it helps to mentally note when you're inhaling, inhale, or inhaling. And as you exhale, you can say exhaling. Or if you are paying attention in the belly area, you can note rising as you inhale, as your stomach rises, and falling as you exhale and your stomach retracts. So now we'll just take 2 minutes to anchor in and do your best to stay with the breath, either in your stomach area or your nostrils. And if you find your mind wandering, that's absolutely okay. Just mentally note to yourself something like thinking or thought, and then bring yourself back to the awareness of the breath. Meditation teacher Sharon Salzberg often says that in those moments when we catch ourselves thinking, these are moments, brief moments of enlightenment. So they're nothing to be ashamed of or to come down on ourselves for thinking. It's natural. So if you become aware of thinking, just note thinking and come back to your breath. And we'll sit for about 2 minutes. And now when you're ready, just slowly bring your awareness back to the room, gently opening your eyes, and welcome back. Now the tricky part is we had this like good rapport going, and then I slowed it down. So now I got to bring you guys back. Let's see. Who's got a funny joke? Because I don't. Has anybody got anything good? No? Shit. All right. First time meditators. Was that all right? Yeah? Yeah? Cool. Okay. The cool thing about meditation is, we do practices like that, and we will formally sit, but then we take it with us when we get up off the cushion and we bring it out into our days. And that's something that becomes a natural experience the more that we practice meditation. A lot of people sometimes tend to compartmentalize spirituality and spiritual practice as something that only happens when we're formally doing it. But whether we're aware of it or not, as far as my experience at least, I don't think that there is a time when spirituality, or even better, spirit, is not imbuing everything that's happening at all times. So I'll get on my skateboard today, and if I'm right there, iPod in, but I'm aware that I'm skateboarding, to me that's a form of meditation. If I'm washing my hands and I'm aware of the sensation of the soap on my hands and the smell, I'm meditating, meditation being there in the moment. So I write a lot about that because I know for myself I had a very skewed view of spirituality to me, it was the same as religion. I'll talk a little bit about that when I tell you about myself, but I just wanted to share that little caveat that meditation, it's always going on. We just have to be aware of it. So, everybody sure no one's got a joke? Nothing? I usually actually will do a meditation right away before I start or save it till the very end, but today I know it's a bit of a different day. Angela, what time am I done at? Let me ask you that so I can be mindful of the clock. I didn't see what time I started. All right. 6 o'clock it is. All right, here we go. I question already. I love the spirit. Yes. Oh, all right. Let's hear it. Do you want the microphone or you just want? Okay. Why did the cookie go to the hospital? Oh, lifesaver right there. Thank you. I have a free book with your name on it after. Come see me. I'm serious. I'll give you one. That was great. Thank you. That was a $15 joke you just told. Nice work. All right. There we go. So now that we're back up, I'm going to bring us right back down because I'm going to have to tell you my story, and it gets, but no, I will share a very abridged version of it. I am a recovering addict too, much like Joe and much like many of us here. One thing I want to say really quick, though, for the benefit of those in the room that are not in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction, when I speak or when I write, I try to tell people that if you're not in recovery from drugs or alcohol, first of all, awesome, that's great. But I do invite you to take what I share, even though I'm sharing it in relation to drugs and alcohol predominantly, and use it as a light to shine on whatever it is that you are struggling with or recovering from. Because I do personally believe that we are all in recovery from something. It's like the Buddha said in his first noble truth, that if you've taken a human birth, you are going to experience pain and suffering and unsatisfactoriness. That is just part of the deal of this human incarnation. But as the Buddha also went on to teach in his other noble truths, 3 other noble truths after that, the degree to which we suffer is much more in our ability to lessen than most of us are aware of. And I'm not here to advocate Buddhism over anything else. I love the Buddha's simple teaching, but there are paths in all of the great wisdom traditions that help us to lessen that suffering. I was interviewing a Trappist monk, beautiful, beautiful man in his 80s. This was several years ago. His name is Father Thomas Keating, wonderful man. And I'd mentioned to him that I was in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And he laughed, this really cute 80-year-old man laugh, kind of like a you silly boy kind of laugh. And he's like, well, I'm in recovery too, but I'm in recovery from the human condition. And that's when it hit me. It's like, yeah, duh. Like I'm sitting there thinking I'm this terminally unique, recovering addict. And no, we all are recovering from something. I mean, is there anyone in this room that has not experienced any form of pain or suffering in their life? Oh, I was hoping we'd find the next Christ among us. He even suffered too, so all right. Okay, so I guess we can all agree on that. Life is hard. It's tough. So anyways, as I share again about addiction recovery, please just use it and relate it to your own life in whatever way you feel works. I don't really tell much about my childhood in my story because there's not much to tell. Anyone who's read my first book, I pretty much skip over that because, like I said, I was born in Damascotta, yay, Maine. I moved to Connecticut, grew up there to a relatively normal family. We were lower middle class. We weren't poor, but we got by. I played soccer, I played hockey, I loved skateboarding at a very early age. And I didn't experience any kind of real traumas that a lot of people I meet in recovery did in a younger age. So there's not much really to tell there. I usually start telling my story around junior high, because much like Joe, I too fell in love with the alternative music movement, Nirvana and Soundgarden and bands I still love today. But that's where things started to shift for me because I was still very much involved in athletics at that point. But I really, really fell in love with this music, and I wanted to emulate these people that were gods to me. So I started learning to play guitar and drums and bass, and I realized that if I really wanted to do this, then I couldn't juggle both, because sports they're very demanding. Anyone who's been on a sports team knows that, and as Joe shared, it's very demanding. And so it was at the end of 7th grade, I broke the news to my parents that I was not going to continue with athletics and I wanted to do music. And they were supportive of that, but they were also kind of hurt because my dad coached some of my soccer teams when I was younger, and they really loved that I did that. But I've been very blessed with supportive parents. Excuse me. So I started playing these instruments, and I met a friend of a friend who was a little bit older than me, and he introduced me into the punk rock and hardcore music scene. Just as Joe was describing his introduction to rave, I had very similar. It was just, wow, I am home, awesome. And there's many genres of punk rock and hardcore, one of which is the straight edge movement, and I got very involved in that. And for those who don't know what straight edge is, it's just drug and alcohol free. Some people won't smoke or drink coffee or sex. I was just no drugs and alcohol. And I was really into that. I was really into it. So I had these friends at high school that I was friends with, but they were more into experimenting and doing drugs on the weekends, where I would be going with my other friend and this new set of friends that I had, and I was playing in bands at this point, so I'd be touring around New England or going to shows around New England, and I loved that. It was really cool for me to escape because I was living in a rural community where I don't blame my friends for doing drugs. There was not much else to do there. And that lasted until about 11th grade or so, when I kind of got bored of the straight edge thing, and so I did the classic experimentation with pot and alcohol, and very quickly made my way into the hallucinogenics, and I loved acid and mushrooms. And God damn it, I usually am the guy on the stage with the best mushroom story. Joe, all right, Joe wins this one, but I'm still going to share mine.